Welcome to One More Thing podcast. My name is Brett Watson, and I'm joined here today by Dr. Troy Doucet, and we have a special guest here today, Pastor Kevin Kiser.
Woohoo. Hey there.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
So the reason that both of you are here is both of you had a presence on stage Sunday and brought up some characteristically controversial Suncoast stuff. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It was all centered around the idea of, real relationships. How do we love our children? How do we develop and strengthen real relationships with our kids? And so I'd made some points, and I thought Kevin's story was appropriate for sort of the context and the content of what we were trying to say, is that, in the midst of raising children, there are going to be moments of chaos, right, and confusion, and how we make, our way through that shows like the character of our person. And I thought Kevin's story was really, really good, man. So kind of remind us, like, what was that chaotic moment for you, for those who may have not heard the sermon?
Yeah, the chaotic moment was my daughter, who was part of our youth group here at Suncoast about 10 years ago. And she was supposed to be over at youth group. Instead, she and another girl snuck away behind the church and decided to make out. And she was seen by one of Henley's grounds guys, that kind of reported her to the youth pastor. And unfortunately, the youth pastor did not handle the situation correctly. But I had a moment to sit down with my daughter, me and my wife, and discuss what was going on. And at that time, I had a different mindset of how I felt about homosexuals and stuff like that. I thought I was very progressive because, I love them, love the sinner, hate the sin, and that kind of stuff. And now I realize, that's extremely offensive to say, and it's a horrible thing to say. But I've learned better. But at that time, I sat down just trying to understand my daughter, and she was crying through the situation, and I had this moment where it just a thought occurred to me, hey, was this your first kiss? And I think most people probably remember their first kiss, and it's a special moment. And then it just struck my heart that I didn't want that to be a dirty memory for her,
right?
And so I told her, I said, that's a beautiful thing. Don't ever let anyone take that away from you. But in the moment of me saying those words to her, it changed my heart, and I began to, and it was like an immediate thing, but I began to, evolve and to realize more fully what it meant to just love your kids no matter what, and to understand where they're coming from, and maybe some of your ideas of where you come from in the past or need to change.
Yeah, I love when you said that in that moment you realized that you weren't dealing with an issue, you're dealing with your daughter.
Yes.
A person.
Yes. And
this gets into, we've talked about this a lot in the past, the power of proximity, right? So kids definitely present chaos. I've often said that they are, marriage and kids are probably the most soul shaping relationships that you have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we've all got chaos stories with our kids, for sure.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
Well, I know Joseph, coming from a completely different continent, had its own sort of chaos. How did you navigate the chaos of that and just trying to create this relationship with your son, who is a different color than you, skin-wise, comes from a different continent and culture? Like, what were the things you had to sort of fortify in yourself to
We knew going into it, I mean, gosh, there's so many what I call burning bush moments, Moses in the burning bush, things that pushed us through the decision to actually adopt. I was firmly against it from day one when Arlene started having this laid on her heart, But fast forward to we made that decision, and we went to visit him for the first time. We were somewhat prepared by social workers, that sort of thing. to expect that this would be difficult because of cultural differences, racial stuff, and the fact that he was an older child. He was almost 5 at that point, and that always presents unique challenges, you know.
Yeah.
But what we weren't told is that he had severe disabilities in terms of language and speech, and we had no idea
Right.
until the day we met him. And so that was kind of a shocker. And how did we navigate that? Similar to what you did, Kev. I mean, we read a lot, tried to educate ourselves, and we had counselors and that sort of thing, all of which was very valuable. But at the end of the day, and as cliche as it can sound, we just decided that we're going to commit ourselves to love this kid as best we can, and that's what we did. And I mean, he's a remarkable guy. He really is. He's come so far.
Yeah.
So
it's weird, you know, because we have all these conversations that take place after the sermon, after you give a really powerful testimony or a powerful message. And a lot of the questions were around the cliche of love, like it just seems so easy. I said, oh no. I said, like, if you actively listen to the sermon, I really did frame it in a way that it's not just this utopian sensation of, everything's going to be fine in the end. Like, the greatest pain and the greatest pleasure we ever experience is in the context of relationship. Like, that's just the way it's going to be. When I think about the heartache that I feel or I felt in my life, it was never because my team lost the national championship. Like, yeah, that hurt a little bit, but the next day, you know, I kind of complained about it, but that was it. But like, the deep felt pain of losing my grandpa because of our relationship. It was not just the man he was, it was the man he was to me, you know. And again, I talked about like the loss in divorce and, you know, failed marriage. Like, that was extremely difficult to walk through, particularly being a father and not being able to be with your kids every day. And that in itself, you know, pushed me to be a bit controversial this weekend, to say kids need relationship, not religion. Knowing good well, and I know what religion is, and it's true, like, etymological sense. Like, they do need religion in the truest sense of the word. But what they don't need is God shoved down their throats, you know, in order to create behavioral change.
Like a lot of gay kids, they run into churches, and I would like to think maybe some of these people are well-meaning, but you know, it's going to pray the gay away, or send them to programs to help them and stuff like that. But what strikes me is, I can't remember the percentage right off the top of my head, but I know it's a really high percentage. I want to say like 85% or something like that. I'm not sure that's correct. But the percentage of a gay kid having one supportive adult in their life causing them to not commit suicide.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just an astronomical figure.
Dramatically reduces that chance.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
So that's so that's where love comes in, is being able to, even if you don't understand, you know,
Right.
I didn't understand when Kayla was telling us first. I totally didn't know what to do, but I knew I love my daughter, and that's why I'm going to. And I just kept telling her, I was like, look, we don't have to agree, we don't even have to understand each other, but I do love you.
Yeah.
And that's the number one thing. And then from there, I went on to understand, you know, but you just got to love your kids, period.
It goes back to the stuff we talk about quite a bit. Like, having your perspective changed is one thing. Like, there could be people out there who have had their perspective on homosexuality, LGBTQ issues changed by looking at facts and, you know, maybe new interpretations that they hadn't looked at. That's perspective. But when your daughter comes to you, the proximity is what encompasses that true transformation. And that's something I said yesterday, is if we want transformation in our children, we have to transfer these very important values. And sometimes they do have a religious hint to it. But at the end of the, I want my kids, like you said, when I asked you that question yesterday, man, like, what do you want most for Kayla? And you're like, I just want her to be happy. I want her to be a good person. I want her to be kind.
Fulfilled.
Yeah.
Bro, like that's the end goal. Like that is the role. Me being a dad is not an identity. It's a role that I have to be fully engaged with, because I need to raise my daughters and my son to be good freaking humans.
Yeah.
And not just creating magical childhoods. And I'm doing my best to create a childhood that's going to create memories and bonding experiences that, I'm absolutely thankful and grateful that they have that. I didn't. But I'm going to make sure that they understand, the context in which they're able to experience those things like Universal or the beach and all these things, and never take that for granted, and to see where that comes from. But it's a hard role, man. Being a parent, it's hard. Like, it's hard because I don't know about you guys. I question myself every freaking day.
Yeah.
Like, am I doing a good job? Am I screwing these kids up?
Mm-hmm.
And I just hear that soft voice. It's okay.
Yeah.
You can be all right.
Yeah.
They're gonna be all right. They're going to be all
so
right.
grateful for that.
Yeah,
that
man.
still small voice, right?
Yes.
It's okay.
It's okay. You're going to be okay. They're going to be okay. And even when they're not with you, as contentious as co-parenting can be sometimes, I know that my children are safe when they're with their stepmom. They're with their stepmom and stepdad, who absolutely love and adore them. And when they're with me, Esther and I love and adore those kids. And so regardless of the difference of philosophies of house, the one crossover is that they are loved, and they are in real relationships with everyone in their life. And so, that's what I'm most thankful for, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. The proximity thing is just so key. And so I guess, is it fair to encourage people to put themselves in relationship, in proximity with people that they're, let's face it, afraid of because they're different?
You mean those people?
Right?
Yeah.
Put yourself in proximity with them.
Yeah.
I mean, and you'll find, I think 9 times out of 10, that that proximity changes so much of your perspective.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's some understanding that's gained every time you have the courage to place yourself there.
Yep.
I remember when I was finishing I was enrolled in my master's degree program, and I had a couple of humanity credits that I needed to take. And I could take it at the place where I was doing my master's degree at Criswell, which was like $500 a credit hour, or I could do them at Collin College. And so I needed a 2000 level philosophy course, and I needed a 2000 level humanities course. And I said, I'm gonna go pay $50 a credit hour and just transfer them in.
Yeah.
And so one of the guys there is one of my best friends today, Dr. Bryant. He was the philosophy guy I took, and it was I think it was a philosophy of religion course. And dude, he owned every argument I had. I was this know-it-all youth pastor. I had an undergrad from Liberty, and thought I had apologetics down, and this guy like just destroyed me.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I had that sort of presupposition, like, oh, he's just going to hell. He's just too smart for his own good. Lean not onto your own understanding, and crap like that. But he really like exposed me to like true philosophical text that Liberty didn't, because it was sort of biased in who we read. But I wrote him at the end of the semester. I said, hey man, I'm going to finish this master's degree, and I'm going to look for you after I'm done. I'm going to reach out to you. He's like, hey, that's fine. And I did. 2.5 years later, 3 years later, I said, hey, I don't know if you remember me. He was like, yeah, you're the youth pastor guy. I was like, man, I'd love to hang out, grab a bottle of wine, chill, whatever. So we went to his house for dinner. He invited us over for dinner. This is after I graduated with my master's degree, and I'm ready. I'm ready to chat. And we showed up to his house, and the table was already made. Food was like placed on the plates. We walked in and like just began to eat. And this is like at 7 o'clock at night or whatever. And I thought it was weird. I thought it was strange. Like, is this how you guys from Ohio do it? You just come in, everything's already set, and we wound up staying at his house till like 1 o'clock in the morning, just chatting, laughing, catching up. And when I was walking out, he said, "Did you think it was strange coming in with the food all set?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I didn't know. I'm not from the Midwest, dude. I'm from Louisiana. The food is still cooking when you show up, and everybody serves himself." He goes, "I got a confession since you're a preacher or whatever." I said, "Yeah, man. What?" He goes, "I thought you were coming here to try to convert me." And he said, "I wanted to feed you and get rid of you as quickly as possible."
Oh.
I said, "Really?" He said, "True." And he said, but then as we started talking, I was like, oh, wait, he's read Nietzsche. He's read Heidegger. He's read Jean-Luc Marion. And next thing you know, man, we're chatting about these things. And he said, "Come to the office tomorrow." He goes, I need to get you teaching at Collin College. And so what started as just trying to get rid of me, proximity, right? Just to feed him. That proximity, me as at that time, a evangelical Christian, and he as a pretty staunch atheist, the proximity sort of breached that liminality of perspective on both of our points. So our perspective was changed only after the proximity. Some people's perspective needs to be changed so they can access proximity. Right. But
True.
I think either way, it works. And so, yeah, man, I think it's a powerful thing you're saying there, Brett, is strike up a conversation with someone that you find different, whether they got gauges in their ear, big rings in their nose, or tattoos or whatever. And you'll find like 9 times out of 10, they're kind people, and you'll find more similarity than you will difference at a lot of points.
Yeah, man. I ran when I first saw you and your tattoos. But then Larry put us in the same office, and I got to know you.
That was it.
There you go. Proximity.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, man. Great job this weekend, Kevin. Thanks for sharing, man.
Great
Thanks.
job to both of you. It was
Appreciate
a really
it.
great message.
So this week we're final week of Real-ationships, and we're talking on the topic of the myth of marriage and happily ever after.
Ooh.
So should be a good one.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys.
Thanks.